Yeah, so I'm happy to be here this week with Brother Ashanti Branch. We have been having some dynamic conversations week after week after week. It seems like, uh, Louise just kind of came up with this idea and we sat down one day and brainstormed, but never in my wildest imagination would I anticipated having the level and depth of conversations that we've had. And I feel like I've been kind of waiting for this one, particularly considering just personally, I've had to go back this week and re-look in the mirror and see what mask I'm carrying. And so I said to myself, you know what, I can't wait till we have this conversation because I know Brother Ashanti is gonna help pull some stuff out of me today. So really looking forward to this conversation, and I'm gonna hand it over to you because I would like for you to introduce yourself to folks, and we can get into it.
Thank you, brother. I am super excited to be here. My name is Ashanti Branch. I'm from Oakland, California. I was raised by a single mother. We were on welfare. We were poor, and we were using the old Monopoly money food stamps that I had to stand in line and let people go ahead of me because no one could see. I didn't want nobody to see. I heard of a formula when I was younger that if you don't like this poor thing that you could live happily ever after. And I was like, well, tell me the formula. And they were like, well, if you study hard and you go to college and you get a good job, you can make a lot of money and you live happily ever after. So I said, sign me up for that. And I worked hard when I got my act together to try and do that. And my act wasn't always together. If I take you back to middle school and elementary school, it was a mess, but a teacher saved my life. A teacher named Miss BP. And she said to me one day in detention, she said, you're too smart to be acting like you're dumb. She said, life doesn't give you what you want. I know you're sad that your father died before you were born, but life doesn't give you what you want. Life gives you what you get, and you got to make the most out of it. And I don't know if it was that same week or the next couple of weeks, but that sentence changed my life. Like, I'd always been upset that I had no father growing up, and my mom married some guy who I thought was a jerk. Like, he wasn't nice to me. He was nice to his son. He was nice to his kid, but not to me. And what I realized in that time was that my journey of being an educator was never on the plan because I wanted to be rich, because they told me that if you follow this formula that you got happiness ever after. And I knew that most of my life growing up there was happiness, but there was a lot of other stuff in the mix. You know what I mean? Like, I think that I knew we didn't have a lot of money. I knew we were struggling, but what happened was when that teacher changed my life, my act was on. And I was focused. So I got to high school focused. I said, look, my name is Ashanti Branch. I will get no grade lower than a B. Like, my first name starts with an A, my last name starts with, I had this formula in my head, like, you can't get nothing lower than B. You're going to go, like, I had a formula. I was always battling with these two twins. They were like, always like number 1 and 2. If I have anything, I remember them very well. But I was like, okay, all right, the two twins are always 1 and 2. I'm like 3 or 4 because I was like, it was a battle for like trying to be, but my friends didn't know about the battle. Like, my friends, yeah, we didn't talk about that. So I had a game I had to play to keep cool with my friends and keep studious with the twins who were at the top of the class. And I tell you that story because I wasn't always a good student. I wasn't always a student who was trying to do good. I would never want to be an educator. Education called me. And I graduated from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo as an engineer, started making money. I was living in Walnut Creek. I was set. That's what happiness ever after, right? No. Like, I was happy on the weekends, on happy hour. It started around 5 o'clock on Friday. That's when happy started. And then it ended around 7 o'clock on Sunday. And then I was like, oh, I got to go back to work. Now, I liked work. It wasn't that I didn't like the work. I loved the work, but it wasn't bringing me this happiness ever after joy that I thought I was getting. And I started tutoring at Upward Bound at Mills College. And that I wasn't planning to be tutoring, but it happened. And that first week, driving back to Walnut Creek after getting up early on a Saturday morning and kids are showing up late to my class, I was like, oh, wait till next week. Like I was only gonna be there for 2 months. I was only holding the space for them to find another teacher because I party. I was an engineer. I partied on Fridays. I can't be sacrificing my Sunday mornings, Saturday mornings for no teaching. And what happened was I started strategizing for those students. I'm like, how dare you show up to my class late and doing nothing? I'm like, why are you taking this so serious, Ashanti? And the seeds were planted. The fire started growing, and engineering never did the same for me. It never brought the amount of joy that I thought it was supposed to bring for me. And so I became a teacher, first year teaching, failing, doing a horrible job. Young men in my class, smart. I could see myself in them. Why are you failing my class? I like you. I love you. I'm here for you. I ain't here for this money. And Ever Forward Club started my first year teaching. I said, look, I'll buy you all lunch once a week. In exchange for lunch, teach me how to be a better teacher. And that's how it all started. If you told me my first year teaching that I was starting a nonprofit, I would have told you, you can't get more nonprofit than teaching. That's what I would have told you. But now as I'm running a nonprofit, I can tell you, you can. So I do know it's possible. So at the time, I don't know. I wasn't planning to start a nonprofit. I was a first year teacher trying to do a good job of teaching. And those lunches turned into conversations, into brotherhood, and into a movement that I'm clear what my life is supposed to be about. And so I'm no longer teaching, but I'm running this program and this organization, and we're making a move and trying to help students. Our original workshop with young men, and then we started doing workshops. We were featured in a documentary called "The Mask You Live In," and then we started doing workshops with all students, and then we started doing work with teachers. And now our work is really like trying to support systems, right? Because if we don't support the system, no matter how much I tell a student, count to 10 when you're about to get mad. If the teacher is still like, answer me, they may get cussed out because they're not letting the student breathe, right? And I know well, because I've done it. I've been on both sides of the cussing out. I've been the cusser and I've been the receiver. And I think that if we don't help educators understand that our students are human, that we're human, we wear these masks and sometimes pretending that we're doing all good, and we're not. And I think our students sometimes do the same. They're doing the best they can. And so I'll stop there because I could go on. I could go on and on, but I just want to give you an overview. So that's a brief and long overview.
I was on mute there, but we're going to get into the topic for today's conversation. But before we do that, I just want to tell you one of the things that I find fascinating about your opening statement is just your story echoes my story, which echoes the story of our very first webinar when we had a panel of, I want to say, 5 or 6 Black educators, and to a man, each one said, like, I got into this not planning on getting into this. I just happened to find myself in front of kids one day and loved it, and now they can't get rid of me, which I think is pretty amazing because, as someone who works with within a teacher credential program, right, we get a lot of students, a lot of the traditional teaching students that say, I wanted to be a teacher since I was a kid. It's been a lifelong goal for them to join the profession. And then we come to, Black males in particular, at least in my experiences, who are just as talented, passionate, sometimes even more passionate about the work because of our experiences. And we're all like, hey, my goal was to make some cash and be living, mine was to play football, right? I'm going to play football. I'm going to go professional. I'm going to make a whole bunch of cash. And then somebody was like, how about a teaching career? I was like, no. and lo and behold, I'm here. So I just wanted to highlight that because that was just meaningful to me to hear you say that. Again, just tying everything together. So today we're talking about gender and the mask, and I don't want to give it away. So I'm going to ask you if you could tell us what is the mask? What is this gender and the mask that we are going to uncover today?
Yeah, when we first started the work around creating these workshops, so the documentary "The Mask You Live In" came out. It was about American masculinity and how this hyper masculine narrative being a man really hurts our boys. how our boys feel like they got to fit into this mold that if you don't do it, you're not a real man, or you're not a manly man. You're not really masculine. So there's all these rules. And if you care about what people say, then you're going to either conform to the rules, or you're trying to make yourself go so far away that people just stay away from you, period. But what ends up happening is these behaviors. So when the documentary came out, when they were filming, I was a dean at Fremont High School, and I was working with some young men, and the crew that were going to do the film, they said, well, we want to see Ever Forward in action. I said, well, you should go see Arise High School, because that's the club we help build. The mentor there is amazing. There's like 35 young men. Like, they held the space of that school. They held, like, their brotherhood was infectious in the school. And what happened was, they were a tight club, but the club I was working at Fremont, we just got started. They're still lying to each other. Like, everybody's a 10, and they're like, well, we want to see where you are. I'm like, well, yeah, these young men, they don't open up, and they're like, well, we want to see that. I'm like, you want to see resistance? Like, they don't. And what happens is we come to a circle, a group of young men, and they all say, on a scale from 1 to 10, if 1 is the worst, 10 is the best, everybody's a 10. Maybe 1 9 over there, but everybody's a 10. I'm a 10. I'm good. I'm a 10. And I'm like, no, you're not. I'm the dean. Like, I get all the referrals. You got kicked out of 5 classes today. How are you calling yourself a 10? Well, because in front of each other, they got to be a 10. But when we're in my office one-on-one, I don't mess around with soft questions. Like, well, soft questions are relative to my context, but what's going on with you? How are you getting kicked out of every class? How does everybody hate you? And if you got self-hate, if you don't like yourself, it's hard for anybody else to like you enough to overcome you not liking yourself. So when we ask them hard questions, we get to the heart of it. And what happens when they're in front of each other, they can't, and I can't tell their business. So my job in the circle is to hold space. And so anyway, what happened when they came and filmed, and this activity with the mask was what I was hoping it was going to work. And I knew that they couldn't talk about it, so I had them write about it. And they would actually, we may experience it today. Maybe we'll do that with the folks today who are here. Let them experience it, because I think that it's actually even more powerful when you feel it, when you experience it. So what I'll do is, in the chat box, I'll put the link. Maybe we'll do it now, because it actually feels like it makes sense.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and do it now. I'm with this. And I just wanted to add a comment, partially because I know where you're going with this, but one of the things that I've been thinking about this week, and I'll get a little personal with it, is I've been thinking about how the mask not only impacts me as a male, but how it impacts my daughter.
Yeah.
And the women in my, like, when we try to hold that mask, that particular mask, right, is not only harmful to self, but it's harmful to everyone that's in our lives, and so that was one of the things. So the 100mask.com, that's the link that
100kmasks.com. I think Michael put it there for everyone, and then Louise put it there for everyone. So when you go there, it's going to be a screen, and it will say, in a red box, it will say create a mask. And so if you go there, now say like if you're on a phone and you can't get to make that mask, I'll walk you through it on paper. So for those that are on the computer, when you click it, a page will pop up. You go to create your mask. It shows you where all the drawing tools are. At the bottom, hit skip, and then you can start drawing your mask on that and answer the 2 questions at the bottom. For those of you that are doing it and you may be on a phone and it's harder to get to other links, I'll walk you through it on a piece of paper, and then you'll be able to do it or do it in your notebook or a journal. So we'll do it on paper as well. So what we'll do is, if you have a piece of paper or you're doing it in your journal, just draw a line down the middle. But if you're on the computer, just go ahead and start drawing. On the left side, where it says front of mask, your first step is to draw a mask. And so for those people who are doing it on their paper or notebook, I just want you to look at both sides as a left and a right side. And the left side, call it the front, and the right side, call it the back. So you will just put front on this side and back on the right side. So the left side is front, the right side is back. Now, the first step, if you're on the computer, you're probably already drawing. You got the drawing tools. You can just change colors. If you're doing a piece of pen and paper like me, you can just draw a mask on the left side. So where it says front, I want you to draw a mask, okay? So whatever you think a mask looks like. And when we talk about masks, I know a lot of this, this started before what we're dealing with right now. I'm not talking about the personal protection mask necessarily. I'm talking about any other mask that you think of, but whatever you draw is perfect because it's whatever it's supposed to be. So draw a mask on the left side. And if you're an artist, I just want to prepare you ahead of time. I'm going to rush you. And so my artist friends don't like being rushed. So try not to make this your masterpiece. And just know as this is about your 90-second mask, all right? Maybe 120 seconds. So if you're drawing a mask on a piece of paper, just use that space and draw a mask, whatever you think a mask looks like. Okay. Now, if you have your piece of paper, the side where you have the mask, the first question, this activity is 1 picture and 6 words. It's 1 picture and 6 words, okay? So the picture is done, hopefully, or you're still finishing up your picture. You have a mask on the left side. Now, the first question that you're gonna answer, and there's 3 words for the answer, what are 3 qualities or characteristics that you gladly let people see? 3 qualities or characteristics of yourself that when you leave out to go to see the world, or how much of the world you get to see these days, what are the qualities of yourself, or when you're on this little rectangle that you let people see? 3 qualities that you gladly let people see. Write those on the left side, which is the front of the mask, okay? 3 qualities or characteristics that you gladly let people see, okay? Now, if you're drawing on the computer, you probably should be getting ready to start answering those 2 questions at the bottom. And we're heading to the back now. And if you submit on computer, you're going to submit twice. So I'll tell you the next step once we finish on paper. So now we're on the back. So if you're on the back side, you've already got the front. You got 3 words that you gladly let people see. And then the back of the mask is different. Take a breath. The back of the mask are the things you normally don't let people see, that you normally don't talk about. So I would like you to think of 3 words, and if they're phrases, it can be phrases, of qualities or characteristics that you normally don't talk about, don't let people see. And whichever ones you feel comfortable that you can write, it's anonymous, so whichever ones you feel comfortable writing, and those have paper, you can do it on your paper, but 3 qualities you normally don't let people see, or characteristics, okay? Okay. And take a deep breath. So if you're on the computer, hopefully right now you've already written the words, you've clicked submit the first time, it asks you for some information. If you don't feel comfortable, you can just put the university name as a city, you don't have to put your city. If you don't want to put your age, just put 00. And then for the gender, if you don't want to put, you can put it if you feel comfortable. If you don't, just put, I don't want to, and there's no class code. You just put the information on the top and click submit. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show a video to you. We've collected close to 50,000 masks from 18 countries. So the video I'm going to show you is a song that was created by a school called High School for Recording Arts in Los Angeles. These students, they are students who struggle in the regular school system, but they want to do music. They learn how the music industry while getting their diploma. And so I took them through exact activity I just took you through, and they created a song. And the video is going to show masks from around the world. So I'm going to share that with you now. If you go ahead and submit your mask, and I will get the video ready for you. Here we go. One second. Share. Okay, here we go.
Summer you'll never have until you ask. You don't know just who I am under this mask. 100,000 masks, I'm just trying to be a man. 100,000 masks, you don't know just who I am. May think you know me, you can't envision my past. You don't know just who I am under this mask. 100,000 masks, I'm just trying to be a man. 100,000 masks, you don't know just who I am. Walk 1,000 miles and I ain't never looking back. Before I take this mask off, gotta know myself in fact. I can never go too fast, I can never get off track. Leave it in the past, I can never come in last. 100,000 masks, sure feel who I am. I'm just feeling good, yeah, I'm feeling like the man. Running back a mask, trying to ask her who I am. Know just who I am, when you look inside this mask. So much you'll never have, until you ask. You don't know just who I am under this mask. 100,000 masks, I'm just trying to be a man. 100,000 masks, you don't know just who I am. May think you know me, you can't envision my past. You don't know just who I am under this mask. 100,000 masks, I'm just trying to be a man. 100,000 masks, you don't know just who I am.
So I just invite everybody to take a deep breath. And for those that feel like they want to say something, if you get in the chat box, just say, what does that make you feel? What came up for you? What was it like for you to think about the words you wanted to write and the ones you were like, I'm not writing that? Like, what are all the things that came up for you as you were creating your mask? And then what came up for you as you were seeing masks of other people from all over the world? From Toronto to Lagos to Gold Coast, Australia, like what, India, like here in the US, like what came up for you? What's coming up for you? What does it say to you? What does it mean to you? And so, you know, that's the work that we get to do. We take people through these experiences, students, adults, teachers, parents, like through experiences of really recognizing that there's so much more going on with all of us than anybody could ever see by looking at us. But oftentimes our eyes think they're so smart, right? So we see something and we're like, that's what that person's like, right? And we only know what we see. We see a lot, but we're sometimes missing things too. So that's the work. It seems simple, right? It's one picture, 6 words. But imagine where it goes in our work, right? When we're with the students, I'm just finished a workshop right now for a high school here in the Bay Area. Their sophomore retreat. We led the sophomore retreat with this work. And then they went and did some deeper work with a smaller group. But imagine if you never had a place to talk about what you were going through. Imagine if you never had a place to like be all your full real self. I heard a quote recently that said, it's really hard to be fully loved unless you're fully known. And when I heard it, the reason it rang so deep in my brain and my ears and my body is because I think there's probably very few places where I think I'm fully known, right? And I think that, and that fear of like, man, I've been through some wild, crazy things in my life. And where do you go? Where do you go? And luckily I'm on a men's team. I joined a men's team 10 years ago, 2010, to have a space to take off, right? Some days I'm there to support other men, and some days I need the support. But to have it, I think so many people don't have a place that they can do that. We would expect the families, right? As educators are like, well, your family should be that support. But if we're smart, if we're wise enough, we know that all families aren't created equal. So maybe my family lets me talk about anything I want to talk about. And others who, man, everything was good, everything's fine, I'm fine, everything's great. And then the student just bottles it up. And I'll stop there because I want to see if there's any questions that have come up already, but that's our work starts with this, and then it builds on top of that, because once we can have a conversation that I know there's more going on than I can see, then you get to choose how much you want to tell me. You get to choose But just so you know that I'm human too. There's more going on than you can see. I got a job. I'm a teacher. I got an educator. But hey, I got some stuff going on that's tough. And so that's the work that we're trying to do.
Just some of the comments that are in our box. Surprising how similar we are, even in our diverse mask. It made my heart hurt. Reminded me of brokenness. You can also choose the Q and O. Very powerful activity. Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. We are so similar, some to more extremes than others. I will tell you what I found myself doing. It was almost as if I knew the answers to the test. And so when I was filling out my mask, I almost found myself sticking to the script of what I'm supposed to do, right? Based on the examples that I had seen before. And so I was using words, especially on the backside, like sadness and anxiety and things like that. And I had to take a step back and ask myself, are these really feelings that I have behind the mask, or am I just following suit of what I see everyone else and not doing the work? And I will tell you, even after finishing, I'm not sure I did the work. I don't know if I was honest or if I was answering based on what I thought the expectation is supposed to be.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. You know, when we train people to do the workshops, and we've only trained maybe 3 other people. I remember going to a workshop at a school, and I heard the person, it was their time to practice. And so when they said, and then write words on the back, you know, kind of like, boom. And I was like, no. And I literally, for the participant, they were like, what's going on, right? But in my mind, I'm like, as soon as you give them words, as soon as you say, like sadness, like fear, like whatever, you have basically told the person that, like, the tension that comes from talking about your real stuff is real. And if you can find, oh, he just gave me one. Okay. And what happens is, luckily, like I didn't know that the first time it happened, and then I was prepared. I'm like, you can't say, you think you're helping people, but actually, and you know, I'm a facilitator, right? So I do this work. So like, it's about creating the experience so somebody can feel the tension, and even if they leave it blank, but whatever it was that they left blank was because they weren't either trusting, they weren't sure, they didn't know, but knowing that they thought about it, like they thought about it. But if I give them a word and they write it, like you said, so I appreciate you saying that, because we know that it happens. That's why in the like early days, we would probably show pictures first so they get an idea. And I just said, no, we have to explain to them how to do it. And whatever they put on the card is perfect, whether they got one word or blank. And we tell you blank is something. Blank speaks loudly as well. It means I ain't telling you nothing, right? It could mean I don't understand. It could mean like, are you really want me to write stuff on like whatever it means, we're glad for it. But we know that I'd rather that than somebody to do it. So I think thank you for speaking to it, because maybe people in the room have seen it before. And I think we like I said, we got 50,000, close to 50,000 masks right now. And you know, my people in my office know I take them really serious. Like if the rubber band is on wrong, I'm like, hey, what's up with the rubber band? Why is the rubber band all? Because I mean, I take them very, and now they're digital, so different things. So I don't have the visceral, but I always have masks close by. You know, I always have masks that I have been collecting that are just sitting here on my desk, because it's a real thing. And I think each one of them connected to a person, right? It's connected to a person who opened their heart a little bit and let us in.
You started off by telling us, you know, that this experience started when you were in the classroom, and has now blossomed to where it is today. Two-part question. One, could you detail a little bit more for us, like the educational value of exploring this, and then two, the value it has in this moment today? when we're in remote learning, there's a lot of stuff happening in the world. What's the value of this for us today?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. One of the things I realized when I was a first year teacher was that I was struggling because I was trying to teach good math. And I thought that teaching good math was just that. I teach good math. Like I wasn't thinking about building relationships. I wasn't thinking about like the deeper work of what happens. Like I realized that me trying to just only teach good math made me a really bad teacher. Can you see that, bad teacher? Can you see that? And so what happened is, like, as a first year teacher, what I realized was that early on, I knew that my job was to change how I was seeing it, because I knew math. I was an engineer. I went to prepare to study teaching this math, but there was so much more going on. So I started using what I had learned in corporate America. And so I told my students that, look, I'm not going to be your teacher no more. I'm going to be your coach. So here's how we're going to do it. You're going to make some goals. I'm going to help you achieve your goals. And because when I was in corporate America, I had a coach. So I'm like, all right, we're going to flip this teacher thing on his head. That's what I was trying to do. So I wrote these questions for students and I had them fill them out. And I'm coming to your answer, because what I learned from these students was that it wasn't the math. When I asked the students like what obstacles they had overcome in their life, this first one says, obstacles that I've overcome in my life is drugs and my girlfriend. The obstacles that I currently face are some teachers being boring, like my English class. This next one, obstacles that I have overcome in my life, you see the word slipped in there? Almost overcome gangs and stuff like that. He could have lied. He didn't have to say, he could have said, I'll overcome the gangs. But obstacles that I currently face, they're gangs. This next one, obstacles that I overcome in my life is the fact that my dad is not with me no more, and I had to accept it now. And this kid came to class every day, just sitting in the back doing nothing. I'm like, dude, you're here every day on time. Why do you do nothing? Well, if you witness your father dying, maybe algebra could mean nothing to you. Parabolas, graphing, none of that matters. You can replay this scene in your head every day. I didn't even know. And I had even more to connect with this kid after this. Like, I don't have my dad either. I know the feeling of the loss and the emptiness. Well, I didn't have the loss. I just never had, but same thing, you know? Obstacles that I currently face are school and how bad I want to do good in school, but I always end up slacking off, not knowing that his own trauma was causing him not to be able to focus because he kept seeing these scenes over and over again. And this last one, I was mad before I even read it because it was so small. And first of all, I made these boxes myself. So how dare you not fill the box up at least halfway? So first of all, me as a teacher, I'm like, look, don't waste my time, right? But luckily, I didn't give it back to the kid when this is what it said. Obstacle that I overcome was just make it to the age I am. He's a freshman in high school. You mean you're 13 or 14 and you're just glad to be alive? How naive of me to think that you should care more about my home, my class, my homework, when you're just trying to be like, look, I'm just glad that I can still breathe. And the goal that he had was obstacles currently passing this math class. I would have never guessed that that young man ever cared about passing my math class. And so what I learned from those students and why it's important, right, was important is because we are seeing our students based on what they show us, but we're only seeing what they're showing us. And when I learned that it was way more than them being my students of math, that's when the relationships changed. When that kid, every time he showed up, the kid who said, I'm just glad to be alive, I'm like, dude, what's up? Welcome to class. Late or on, like, I'm like, you know, he can't be late too many times, but it's like, I'm giving you appreciation for showing up because you're just glad. Like, how about we, like, if I never knew that, I'm always on him about being late. Why are you late? Why are you late? He's like, man, if you only knew, right? Now, I'm not saying you accept tardies. I'm saying if we know more about them, our conversation can be different. Our conversations and our connections to students can be different. And what I learned is when I became more than just a math teacher, everything changed. Like, everything in my connection to students changed. The first time it happened was a girl, Natasha. She came in Monday morning, and that weekend I was out. Now, for some reason, I thought she may have known that I was out because she said, Mr. Branch, what'd you do this weekend? I'm like, what are you asking me I'm asking my personal business? What you all be my business for? And she said, oh, I was just trying to get to know you. Like, what you be, I don't know what you be doing. And I heard her with such a sincerity that she wasn't trying to be nosy. She was trying to build a connection. And if I hadn't learned that students wanted to build a connection with an educator, with me as a teacher, I'm just there to teach math, I thought. I mean, I like building relationships, but I didn't think I was there for that. I was told by the older teachers at that school, don't smile till November. Like you keep it's easier to loosen the reins than tighten them up later. That's what I was told by older teachers, right? When you come out of your car, leave your problems in the glove compartment, you come in, you're a perfect human. And then you're just to impart your knowledge on these specimens that you're there to teach. And what happens? Well, we begin to act like we're not human. That's why kids are surprised when they see their teachers in the store, because you're like, oh yeah, I shop too. I gotta get groceries. Have you ever seen a kid, if they ever saw you in the store, they're like, oh my God, that's my teacher. Oh my God, he's in the store. Like they're confused. They're like, you leave that building, like, 'cause sometimes they don't even know that you're a human, because we act like we're not even human. And so when I learned to change my context about education, not only did Ever Forward as a club grow, my work as a teacher grew, and it changed my life. And so that's why I think it's important. I think it's important because even us as adults, if we're not careful, our masks begin to be what define us. And our kids are like, you don't get me. I've had kids tell me, you don't care about me. You're just here for this check. And I'll be like, you don't know what this check look like, because I ain't here for this check. You know what I'm saying? But what they're saying is, you don't care about this job. You don't care about us. You just here for the job. What I think deeply they're saying is, you care about math. You don't care about the students. And so what I tell educators now, I say, if you care more about the subject that you teach than the subjects who you're teaching, there's going to be a disconnect. I know students who, if you don't give them homework, they're gonna make up their own homework. And I know students that you can deliver the homework to their house and they ain't doing no homework. So it's not about if I'm giving them the right stuff, it's about, do I have a connection with them and a relationship with them? And so that's why I think it's important. That's why I think it's crucial that educators know more than just their subjects, because our kids need us to know that.
Donna says, where do we go from here? Now that we've uncovered all this stuff, now that we know the obstacles that they've overcome and the obstacles that they're facing, now that we know what's behind the mask, like, where do we go, man? You just dropped a whole sack of potatoes on me, man. What do I do?
Yeah. I think where we go is we start with empathy. We start with finding out where we can begin breaking down the walls between I'm the teacher, you're the student, I'm here to teach, you're here to learn, as opposed to us being in this space together of creating generational positivity down the line. I think where we go from here is we ask our students to make a mask. They're anonymous, and we learn. And we're like, wow, there's so much going on more than what I can see. I mean, imagine like when teachers see their kids right there on these screens right now, all you see is what they let you see. Now, the other day, Janelli, who's in the program, she's managing the campaign, she took a picture of me, like I was on a Zoom thing right here. She took a picture of me and she sent me the picture. And I'm like, look at my messy desk, because all you see is this, but what's over there is a mess, right? So what happens when we always see is what they let us see? Especially now all I'm seeing is this, whatever dimensions on that screen, that's all I get to see. And sometimes even that we see more than we choose to see or want to see. But what we know is that and maybe they're in a space where they can't even talk about what they're really going through. But I think where we go from here is having more educators who say, I'm a teacher of this subject, and I'm a teacher of young people who are trying to figure out the best way they can to survive in whatever their experiences are. I think that where we go from here is saying, look, if I learn something today, I don't keep it to myself. I don't know 1 million people. I don't have no idea how we're going to get 1 million masks. I'm not as concerned about the number million. I'm concerned that I'm clear that my mission and my goal in this work is about changing lives. And so where we go from here is tell somebody about what you saw today. Tell a teacher, a principal, somebody. If you don't want to explain it to them, send them to us or send us to them, and we will connect. Like, we believe that this work can change. And especially now, trying to figure out how do we support young people with an idea of trauma-informed care. Like sometimes our activities for some people is too simple. They're like, is that it? And I'm like, make one. That's what I tell the adults, right? Is that all? 1 picture, 6 words? What is that going to do? I'll say, here's one. How about you make one? Then when they begin to recognize that they don't want to talk about their stuff, then why would a kid, when you ask them why they didn't do their homework, tell you what's really going on? Well, they're not going to tell you. They're going to be like, because I didn't want to do it. Because you don't care about what's been really going on in my life. And so if we don't begin building relationships, I think the idea of social emotional learning is not a box or a kit that you order from online. I think social emotional learning is caring enough that I see you as a human and I'm here to help you become a better math student, but I want you to be a better person and citizen. And so I think where we go from here is just starting by telling somebody for ourselves. If you maybe it's a person in your family, maybe it's a person in your neighborhood, maybe it's somebody you've been thinking, a cousin who lives in another city you've been thinking about, maybe just send them a text and say, hey, I've been thinking about you. Sometimes we don't even tell people because we don't want to, well, I know how I am. I don't like bothering people. But what I do know is that sometimes in this space, and I'll tell one, so the month of July was really rough for me and Ever Forward. We lost one of our young men to COVID. I got a call from him from the hospital on July 1st. He was not supposed to be on the phone, but if you know Dante as a student, he was calling somebody. And what he said through this respirator, he said, COVID. He said, pray for me. And I just stopped right there and I prayed with him on the phone. And I sent the message out to the Ever Forward community. I said, hey, I just want to let you know this. So I found out I was trying to find his aunt. And I didn't have her number. He called me 3 days later. He couldn't. I said, stop calling me. Let me just read some messages to you from your students. And I read some messages to him. And July 7th, he passed. So it was a really rough day. It was a rough day for me. It was rough for him. And July 10th, I started feeling ill. I don't know what it was, but I ended up in July with COVID-19. And I remember just like feeling weak, and I thought I'm taking Tylenol, thinking that was it. And then, so I tested positive, and I don't want to tell anybody. I don't want to tell anybody. Like, I'm a hard worker. Like, I'm like on the floor. I'm going from the floor to the couch to the bed, to the floor to the couch to the bed. I can't get comfortable. I'm feeling like I'm out of my body. I'm seeing myself spin around in circles. It was miserable. And when I realized, why am I not telling anybody? Well, because I'm embarrassed. Like, I should be smart enough to not. I didn't tell anybody. So when people would text me, I'll be like, oh, how you doing? I'm trying to text from how you doing? I'm trying to pretend like everything's fine. Because when somebody say, how you doing? I don't think they really mean how you doing. I think they're just greeting you. So I just answer with what I think they want to receive as a greeting. And so even people who I thought about telling, I'm like, nah, I'm not going to bother them with my stuff. I'm an adult. I'm a grown man. Not telling people real stuff that's going on. What do we think our kids are doing when they're told that what happens in this house stays in this house? Even if it's traumatic, even if it's dangerous, even if it's ugly. So we as educators, we got to create the spaces that they can begin to navigate so that we can support them in bigger ways. And I just share that because it's real and it's, so I'll stop there.
Man, you listen, look, I almost jumped in the trap because I'm saying to myself, like, you can't be doing that right here, man. I can't show them my tears. Like, you gonna have me over here crying. Then I was like, man, I'm putting on the mask. Like, it's hard to get that mask off, man. I fell right in the trap there. But I do appreciate it. I got so many thoughts. But I'm not going to be selfish in this moment because we have been, our chat box is blowing up right now. So a quick question, yes or no, and then I'll get into the hard question. The yes or no question is, Lisa wants to bite your quote. Our dean, she wants to take it and use it as her handle. If you care more about the subject than the subjects you teach, like, absolutely. So Lisa, you got the thumbs up. You can bite it.
Tweet it.
And then we had another question from another one of our colleagues, Pam. You've touched on this a little bit, but I was hoping maybe you could share some specific activities around addressing social emotional needs, considering that, like you said, our kids don't even have to put on the masks now because they could just turn off the video. And how do we, not only unpack, but how do we then engage in some relevant, effective activities that can actually help build their needs? Because, and I will tell you, one of the things that I'm noticing is that the remote learning curriculum is devoid of social emotional learning. It is strictly subject focused and not on whole child focus. So do you have some activities that maybe we can do?
Yeah, what I'll do at the end of this, somebody will share it with you. There is a digital swag bag we put together that has some resources, and so the videos are in there. Some videos are in there. The activity that we gave to educators. So the website that I showed with you, I give you an activity guide on how to use that with your students. There's a list of a bunch of questions in there that you can use as reflective questions. We in our work, we've only received back around close to 50,000 masks, but we have mailed out, when we were mailing out cards to schools and teachers, over 150,000 cards to educators. Over 500 educators have signed up to be a part of the movement. So we know that we've had more impact than we've received them back in our hands, but we give it away. Like when we came with this activity, here's a quick story about how the activity happened. Documentary came out, people saw the activity. I got an email from somebody who said, your activity makes the classroom unsafe. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't teach anybody to do no activity. They're like, I did the activity you did in the documentary. I said, that was only 3 minutes. I was with them for over an hour and a half, and I've been working with them for like 6 months. And then they were like, well, it's still your fault. And I'm like, people gonna blame me because they tried to do something they saw in 3 minutes in front of a group of students? I said, no, we're not doing that. So we created it. That's why we created the cards. That's why when we do it live, when we're doing school live, we give out these cards where people will actually do the mask on these cards, right? So we made it so that they can mail them back to us. So we give it away. So it's in the digital swag bag that you'll get. I think Michael just sent it out to everyone. So yeah, that's the answer. The answer is there's a lot of resources there, and we're creating new models of how we can do work with schools and educators. So if your school needs support, we go into schools. We do a professional development for your educators. If your students need support, we go and we work with the students. That's our work. Basically, most of our work was, and we're still building it back up, the earned revenue of going out into schools. So that's the answer. That's a long answer to that.
Great answer to that. Man, I'm looking at the time and I'm wondering where to go from here, but I'll just do this. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave us with as it relates to what we've been talking about today?
Yeah, I think the final thoughts, actually, I want a young man to share the thoughts for you. So let me share this. This young man who went through our workshop, and I think he'll bring that part home. Are you able?
Always angry, but
Oops, sorry. I got to share a screen first. Sorry. So let me share the screen. There you go. I get excited. I remember. Here we go. You see that? You see, I remember?
Yeah.
I was always angry, but I never really, I never expressed it. I just bottled everything in, because it's not necessarily has to do with masculinity, but it's I never had no one I could trust. I didn't have no one to go to, and I'm definitely not gonna, go to therapy and talk to someone I don't even know, because it's no matter what, I felt like I'm gonna just go talk to this person for an hour and still have to go right back home to my mom drinking all night and walking home after work, stumbling in the house. What is me talking to somebody gonna do? And so I bottled everything in, and I did that till I was pretty much a year ago. I remember I went back to school, and it was everybody knew at the school I was in the hospital for, depression and stuff like that. And it was oh, I play basketball, I'm supposed to be this big popular dude, and it's like, I go back to school and people are looking at me like, oh, he was just in the hospital for whatever, like, and you realize like, not everybody's your friend. Everybody you hang with every day, that's not your homie, that's not the person you could talk to, that's gonna be there for you. A lot of people just looked at me and was just like, judged me, basically. Even though they don't know what goes on in my life, I never told them, so they don't really know whatever went on in my life. I think it's just like, the importance of the story is like, I never had any of this. I didn't have a group like this to talk to. I didn't have nothing. I went home and just dealt with whatever was going on in life and tried to move past it. And like I said, after that, after years and years and years of doing that, you're gonna break down. Like, you can't just keep doing that. Like, you will break down and it will just progressively make things worse. So I think everyone in here should really like understand the importance of this group, whether you think it's stupid or you think you're shy or you're just weird to be here because like it's just a weird situation. I understand, but it's very important that you find people in your life that are truly there for you, and everybody else in here has been through stuff or is going through stuff, and like, you're not alone. And it's not soft to express your feelings. It doesn't make you less of a man to express your weaknesses, and fighting those weaknesses and learning to be able to deal with them in a healthy manner. That's what actually makes you so-called a man and makes you strong. It was nice meeting all you guys. I think you guys should really understand that this opportunity that you guys had today is a very big one, and y'all should be grateful to have this opportunity. And hopefully what I said resonates with some of you guys.
I think our young people just want to be heard, and we just got to create the space so that they can know that they're safe to do it. That's what I offer. I mean, I could say a lot of things, but no better words than that young man being able to have a space to encourage other young men to say, you know what, here's what happened to me when I bottled it up. I ignored, I didn't take care of it. It exploded on me. And I tell some young people, sometimes we make a mess, Some messes you can clean up with a baby wipe, and some messes you can spend the rest of your life cleaning up. And so that's what our work is about. So.
That was probably the dopest mic drop I've ever experienced, man. To have that young man speak from the bottom of his heart like that. And it really just captured what the true value of this work is. That young man, no telling what he would be doing and what he would be into today if it wasn't for the work that you're doing. And I reiterate, your calling is definitely to work with young men, but this is for all humans, and so whatever our particular calling is, I think we could take lessons from the things that you've shared with us to work with our individual communities and groups, and have the same impact that we see you having here. All right.
This campaign is for everyone. The campaign is for everyone. So we invite everyone to be a part of it, and please share it. Please share. Help us get the word out. The digital swag bag is for you. You'll see the links in there, and hopefully all the videos are in there, so you have access to those. And I saw somebody talking about the documentary. It's on Amazon Prime or Google Play or one of those streaming sites. You can see it like $3 or $4 or something. I think it's well worth the investment.
All right, brother Ashanti, I can't thank you enough for joining us today and just sharing, all of this great wisdom and love and important information, and for being vulnerable, demonstrating and living what you're actually teaching us today. Extremely important. You gotta, if you get a chance, man, read through the chat box because it's some great comments. Folks definitely, you know, they want you, man.
We can send you the chat too in a separate document so you can peruse it later. But so just want to point out a couple of things in the documentary. Napa Valley Unified also had one of their schools profiled in that same documentary about, you know, how we, you know, kind of label or communicate to boys, you know, what it means to be a man. It also is related to the Misrepresentation Project, which is a similar project about young girls. And our dean, Lisa Norton, I think she wants to be your new best friend, Ashanti, but she has to get through me first because I'm your first best friend. Because we do have a grant. We're doing a mentoring program with one of the local high schools. And so this might be a really good fit for how we approach that. We'll have 20 mentors in partnership with Kaiser Permanente that will be dropping into Vallejo High School in particular. And you know, there is a 3-minute clip on YouTube that Zarina had posted in the chat also, that's just a snippet of what the full documentary involves. And I'm just so honored really to have you here today and have you continue to share this message. This was also the subject of my dissertation for those of you who might be interested in that, because, you know, we all got to talk about our dissertations in higher ed. And, you know, when I tell you that my dissertation panel was on the floor in tears when I shared the data and just the quotes from the young men who were making statements like, you know, I came to this group because, you know, at first I was like getting help from everybody, and now I'm the one who gives everybody help. And the level of pride with which they were just genuinely expressing the growth that they experienced through your program, through the Ever Forward Club, is just, you know, it's definitely just a testament and a contribution that's going to just live and live and live, you know. So thank you for doing your work, and thank you for being you, Ashanti.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Ijeoma, for your help. Thank you, Michael, for welcoming me in the room. I appreciate it. We hope this won't be the last time we do something together. So thank you for having me here.
We definitely won't, man. And you know, just a quick plug for next week. Next week, we have another exciting panel. We're bringing our Latina educators in next week for an awesome panel. And so our own dean, Lisa Norton, Dr. Lisa Norton, is going to be co-facilitating that. And so I can't wait. But this was amazing. Thank you again. And we will see everyone next week.
Bye, everybody.